Bases dropped. It's Wall Pass Wednesday here at SDH. John, hear you there, and the hair's just out of control. It's like I put the headset on, and the hair just decides it wants to go all over the place all over again. Okay, here's the deal. It is going to be a show where we look at the press conference involving Chris Henderson, and then what we will do is Maddie and Jason, if they can figure out signals and signal strength and all of that. We'll get a bit of a preview from them. We'll talk about MLS Cup playoffs so far with them and anything else that is on the table leading into the 9:30 availability. Then Tyler Pilgrim jumps in. When Maddie and Jason clear, we'll bring Tyler in to talk about Chris Henderson and Atlanta United, and what we'll do for the first 20 minutes or so of the press availability is we'll kind of have an eye out there. We'll keep up with Tyler. We'll keep up with what's going on, any of the quick quotes or anything like that that come through. If the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, can join us at 10 o'clock, we'll have Dylan on. We'll talk about the rest of MLS Cup playoffs. Once again, what happened last night involving Charlotte and NYC. And we had a road team finally win. And we had a home team coach complain. We'll get into that probably with Jason and Maddie, and then we'll work our way forward with Dylan. Then 10:30 and beyond, once we hit 10:30, we feel like the Chris Henderson availability will be done. Then once again, with signal strength and places to go and what we can figure out signal strength-wise, Maddie and Jason will come back in, and we will kind of do a bit of a post-mortem and some analysis of what Chris Henderson said in the availability. So that's kind of where we are. We're going to be kind of before and after, some pre and post of the Chris Henderson end of season press conference. Once again, that is slated for 23 minutes from now. So we'll get to Maddie and Jason when they can find out if the signal strengths work or if they have to do it from the parking lot or cars or whatever. Then the Chris Henderson availability, we'll still be doing the show. We'll keep an eye on it while we're talking about things. It'll be kind of in our hip pocket a little bit, and then we'll get our way through to about 10:30, and we'll talk about the Chris Henderson avail with Maddie and Jason. Obviously, they'll have a Children's Healthcare of Atlanta dispatch, and then we will get their analysis once again later on in the day. So set your notifications for everything involving Chris Henderson, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground, and the end of season media availability. So that is coming up in about 22 minutes. So we will keep an eye on that as we go here this morning. A couple of other things that we wanted to get into this morning. Obviously this might end up being opening kickoff-y kind of material. So we'll go ahead and go and do the opening kickoff-y kind of stuff. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Your QR code is, where is the QR code? QR code's right here. So that's your QR code, right? Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, and Abby's prowess in securing QR codes. You hit that QR code, you start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You go to the store, you buy out the store because we want you to buy out the store. Then when you've bought out the store, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Now, we talked about Brendan Rodgers yesterday. And so we talked a lot about Brendan Rodgers. We talked a lot about Brendan Rodgers this week. And it now appears that Brendan Rodgers, according to some reports, may not be unemployed for long. And he is apparently looking at one of two places, depending on the person or periodical or network that you look at. That's where Brendan Rodgers might be heading next. Some sources are saying publicly he could be heading to Saudi Arabia. That would be a paycheck gig, and more power to you. Now, the other one is somewhat more interesting only because it would be a return to the Premier League. So it has been floated that Brendan Rodgers might be heading to Wolves to take over for Vitor Pereira. And when you are Vitor Pereira and you have arguments with fans and you have to be restrained by your own squad about the fact that you haven't won yet this year, I would imagine, and this goes right up to the Wolves' MO anyway, that Wolves and their managers, how many managers have they had recently? Under the ownership that they currently have with Fosun, let's say, all right. Well, so let's go back only a handful of years. Let's go back to say, let's do it this way. All right, so let's go back after they won League One. Go back to 2016. They've had 7 full-time managers in the last decade. That does not include caretakers or anything like that, so you probably could double the number. Zenga, Paul Lambert. Zenga lasted 17 matches. Paul Lambert lasted 33. Nuno lasted almost 200, which is shocking that he lasted over 4 years. Bruno Lage lasted 51. Julian Lopetegui lasted 27. Gary O'Neill actually lasted 63. And Vitor Pereira is 36 and counting. So they've had 7 managers in the last decade. And if you think of caretakers, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 caretakers. So say 13 people that got to put manager on their CV from Wolves in the last decade there, with the management being what it is. So it appears that there is an interest to be the new manager of the last place team in the Premier League. Like I said, that's being floated out there. And do you really want that headache? I mean, look, if it's going to be a paycheck and it's not going to bounce, then, more power to you. Wolves right now at 9 matches played, 0-2-7. They've scored 7 goals in 9 matches. They've given up 19. So their goals against is over 2. Goals scored is under 1. And they are, how many points? They are 2 points away from West Ham. They are 3 points away from Forest. They are 6 points away from safety. And they have Fulham this weekend. So keep an eye on the Brendan Rodgers situation. And we'll see if, in fact, he decides that, I think I want to get back into the Premier League and I want to do it with the last place team. So you've got that to keep an eye on. Keep an eye on that. So good morning, Ricky. Morning, Alex. Morning, David. And, so Brendan Rodgers apparently, he's like, I'm not going to be unemployed long. So it's either going to Saudi Arabia or Wolves right now. Those are the top 2 places that are being mentioned involving Brendan Rodgers. Also, in kind of a in kind of a kickoffy kind of a thing, all of us that watched El Clasico this past weekend knew that Vinicius Jr. had himself a bit of a day, and Vinicius Jr. had himself a couple of moments. One when he was pulled off with about 15 minutes to go. And he was not a fan of it and basically just was ranting and raving and let everybody know and went storming down the tunnel. Didn't even go to the bench, stormed down the tunnel. But then when folks decided to have a coming together when the match was over, he came part of the whole thing once again and came back up and came back out and decided he wanted to be a part of the furor or a coming together or the hootenanny or whatever the heck you want to call it. When the teams got together, they start doing the woofing bit. And so he wanted to be a part of that as well. So Maddie got subbed, went down the tunnel, came back when everybody was woofing with each other when the match was over. And you had, so Vinicius Jr. had himself a day. As of about an hour ago, he has officially apologized. Today, I want to apologize to all the Madridistas for my reaction when I was substituted in the Clásico. Just as I've already done in person during today's training, I also want to apologize again to my teammates, the club, and the president. Sometimes passion gets the better of me because I always want to win and help my team. My competitive character stems from the love I feel for this club and everything it represents. I promise to keep fighting every second for the good of Real Madrid, as I have done since the first day. Heart emoji and at Real Madrid. So it appears now that DeVinicius Jr. has officially somewhat apologized on social media and is letting everything air itself out right there. So he has officially apologized for everything that has happened, or that had happened in El Clasico. You also have this, and this came out this morning, so I want to get this right. Martin Ziegler at the Times, and I guess what we're doing with opening kickoff is we're making sure that we get all of our stories and our AM news out of the way as we get ready for the Chris Henderson press conference. Apparently, and once again, when Martin Ziegler is on a byline, I don't know if you necessarily want that, but it might be that way, where apparently there is a proposal involving VAR where VAR could be given power to overturn second yellows. Subheader, contentious proposal will be submitted despite opposition from the FA, and the 8-second time wasting rule could be applied to throw-ins and goal kicks. I don't know why it wasn't applied to goal kicks ahead of time, but apparently now you could have the 8-second time wasting rule applied to throw-ins and goal kicks. Football lawmakers thinking about extending VAR's powers. IFAB's advisory group has confirmed a proposal that will be submitted to the body's annual business meeting in January. At present, only straight reds can be reviewed by VAR, but there is a feeling in some quarters that game-changing decisions such as a dismissal for a second booking should also come under the video official's remit. IFAB will also look at extending the referee's 8-second countdown when the goalkeeper is holding the ball so that it applies to throw-ins and goal kicks with the aim of speeding the game up and reducing time wasting. Statement from IFAB, quote, in relation to the video assistant referee protocol, it was discussed that, among others, the video match officials should have the possibility to intervene when an incorrect second yellow card has been given. A relevant proposal will be submitted January 26 in London. Deliberations included whether the countdown principle could be applied to throw-ins and goal kicks and how to reduce the time lost owing to stoppages caused by injuries and substitutions. It will also be recommended that the policy of only allowing captains to talk to referees about decisions should become mandatory. Second yellow card VAR proposal likely to be contentious. Mark Bullingham, FA chief exec, said in July, no need to extend the use of VAR, telling BBC back then, there are regular discussions in IFAB about what VAR should be and how it should move forward. I think our position is that we're in a good place now. Of course, if someone brings an item forward for IFAB to consider, then as a group we'll consider it. But as a group, we don't necessarily think VAR needs to be extended at the moment. When asked why he felt that way, Bullingham said, we think there's enough interruptions to the game in the current model. He's not wrong. So you have that possibly being discussed by IFAB coming in January. And are continuing, keeping an eye on Sheffield Wednesday. I don't know if you know this, and I didn't know this. There are statuettes that were installed at Hillsborough by Defon Chansiri, and they could be put up for sale as a part of the effort to raise money to pay staff and creditors. The statuettes are golden elephants that have been at Hillsborough's main entrance since 2016. And these things look like they're about 3 feet tall. And I don't know if it's gold plate or just gold paint or whatever, but there are gold elephants at the main entrance to Hillsborough. They've been there for about a decade, and they could be on the auction block as well. Hey, do you want to buy a golden elephant? They were introduced because in Thai culture, golden elephants are said to offer strength, power, and good luck, seen as a symbol that represents the country itself. To Wednesday fans, they have become a symbol of the Defon Chansiri reign. Now the club's administrators doing everything they can to raise money to pay creditors. One of the 3 administrators from Begbie's trainer, quote, last I heard about the elephants, a staff member said they'd put them in a cupboard somewhere. So as far as I'm aware, they're still in that cupboard. I think putting them up for auction is definitely a possibility. We'll see what comes in the next week. Staff had to move the elephants inside the stadium amid fears fans would vandalize or steal them. Only about 3,000 supporters turned up for the match. Chansiri's decision to place the club into administration. Fans came back on Saturday, urging supporters to put money back into the club. Remember, £200,000 had been spent at the club shop since the plea to have folks come back in. So staff should be paid on time this Friday, which has not happened in 5 of the past 7 months. Administrators looking at the books and the Times understand Wednesday owe their former chairman about 114 million pounds, some of which is tied up in Sheffield 3, the company Chansiri set up that owns the Hillsborough Stadium. Quote, I've not properly looked at the figures, but he's certainly owed roughly $60 million from the football club. Substantial amount of money, I believe, through Sheffield 3, so it wouldn't surprise me if that amount is around that figure. However, based on that figure, Chansiri would only recoup a maximum of about $28.5 million, because under EFL rules, creditors receive 25 pence for every pound they're owed unless the buyer pays over 3 years, in which case the amount goes up to 35. Sheffield 3 is in administration as well because it's the stadium. And so that process is also being overseen by Begbie's trainer. Want a buyer who's going to want the football club and the ground, effectively marketing both, albeit the process slightly different because the football club is governed by EFL rules, whereas Sheffield 3 effectively falls within the parameters of normal UK insolvency law. Once again, the 4 or 5 parties have declared an interest, some of them from the UK and others from the US. The administrator also revealed that the idea of ripping out the white seats in the north stand came from a staff member. The first 2 letters had been replaced by blue seats from the lower tier, because Chansiri, what he had done is he had taken his name and put it in the far stand as you're looking at it from the TV perspective. So when you're looking at it from the press box, his name was spelled out in the 8 sections opposite television. And so they ripped out those seats and tried to replace the white seats with blue seats as best they could. So, yes, the Chansiri seats have been taken out. Administrators slashed ticket prices to 20 to 30 pounds for adults to get people into the ground. More than 27,000 showed up for the match, which Wednesday lost 2-1. They're still in the bottom of the championship at minus 6 points. They got that 12-point penalty, and it probably could be more than that. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday. If you missed the conversation that we had, and Jason made a point to remind everybody about the economics of soccer conversations that we have with our friend Jason Stevens. Jason does go into what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday and goes into John Textor and what he's been up to and why he would be interested in circling back and being a part of things inside the championship as a part of Eagle 2 and relationships with Evangelinas Marinakis, who to me is an individual that you do not want to piss off. I'm just saying. So do not piss off Evangelinas Marinakis. Apparently the two of them are, hanging out, whatever you want to call it. They have a relationship, shall we say. And so it is intriguing. It is intriguing as well to see who might be taking the next steps with Sheffield Wednesday and what John Textor is up to. And like I said, as I mentioned to all of you, I did reach back out. I'm not anticipating, trust me, I'm not anticipating getting a DM back from John Textor, but at least I am doing my due diligence in making sure that we are wanting to ask him some questions. So I DM'd him again yesterday on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, dude, here's the deal. We'd love to have you, and I will blow out my show, and you can stay as long as you want or stay as short as you want to talk about everything going on. And I imagine that if the conversation were to loop its way back around to anything involving Atlanta United, he would say that he couldn't comment on anything that is a current ongoing legal proceeding. But I've done our due diligence here at the morning show. I DM'd him on Instagram, have yet to get anything back, but we're out there with him. Second time in a row in about 5 weeks that we have reached out to him on Instagram. He probably looks at that thing and goes, nope, not answering. And I'm surprised he hasn't deleted us or blocked us yet. But that is that's the rundown of everything that has gone on overseas. If you miss any of our conversations with any of our pundits and any of our guests or what have you, then you can always circle back to all of our social media platforms, and you can pick them up on podcatchers. You can pick them up on all those kinds of things. and set your notifications. So when one of these conversations pops in, if you miss us live, you can always go back and catch up with it and find out what you're missing when it comes to everything here at SDH AM. All right, Chris Henderson, presser set in about 5 minutes. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. Tyler Pilgrim set to join us in about 5 minutes as well. And we will work our way through and once again keep you posted on everything going on involving the Chris Henderson press conference. And we will we'll keep you posted there. I think they did a test of the video signal as getting everything ready for the end of season press conference. And so, like I said, that's supposed to start at 9:30. We'll keep an eye on it, and we will kind of keep an eye out. If you if you are listening to it or if you're watching it at the same time and catching all the notifications, we'll figure it out. Yeah, Abby, I know Wrexham lost yesterday. They tied it at 1. And in picks of the week, for those of you that missed the segment, I picked Wrexham. I think a lot of us picked Wrexham yesterday in Soccer Over There. And as it turns out, Wrexham lost. They had a 1-1. They were drawn at 1, and then Cardiff scored late. They won 2-1. They advanced in the FA Cup. And then, obviously, the discussion on Tata being part of the group being considered for the new head coach. I'm looking at a couple different names, and thank you, Ricky. We'll chase after that as we get into other stuff here this morning. The idea of okay, so they have the African qualifiers for the FIFA 26 Intercontinental Playoff tournament venues and kickoffs confirmed, and also the AFCON on the women's side for the next World Cup. That field has been confirmed as well, and Cape Verde's in that too. And that's could be a really cool year for Cape Verde. But the idea of Tata Martino, obviously, if there's a list and he is on it, but Tata's only going to be here for 2 or 3 years. You have to succession plan almost immediately. That I think is the hook in all of this, is that there is a succession plan, and you have to think about it the second he walks in the door. Because if it's 2 or 3 years, then you don't want to wait until, I'm leaving. Oh, Ish, what do we do? You've got to figure out, okay, Tata has this path. Who is going to be the coach in waiting? So literally it would be like the Lane Kiffin, Texas, Mac Brown coach in waiting thing. That is the larger issue, because I don't, Tata is not one to stay in one place for a long period of time. I think 3 years is usually the max for Tata. So if he was to consider and come back to Atlanta United, then you have to sit there and think, okay, how do we fill in behind? That's the thing. And so that would be the larger issue. And what does Tata want? Does Tata want for his next coaching gig? Does Tata want to build, or does he want a title? I would imagine that you take a gig like Messi and Friends because you want a title. LAFC is going to be available. And remember, Diario Ole said, 6 weeks ago, that there was a verbal in place with Tata on the LAFC gig. He's got Son, he's got Bouanga. You just hope that Son, if he goes to Europe, doesn't blow out a knee or anything when he goes over in the offseason. But you want to make sure that you're chasing after a title at that point. LAFC closer to a title right now than Atlanta United, unless you go worst to first. I know, Ricky. I'm just recapping where we are. But if that was what was said, handful of weeks ago, then fine. But like I said, to me, the only thing missing in this is Jimmy Sexton, where you have an agent who would be playing one off the other. Hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, elbow into the ribs. He's thinking about this. Go to the other side. Hey, he's thinking about this. So do you want the quick fix? Do you want someone who is willing to come in and do a quick fix? But then you've got to do a succession plan if you go for the quick fix. And so that would be the larger element in all of this. Do you want someone long-term? Cool. That's great. Do you want someone who is going to be short-term? Do you want somebody who's going to be long-term? I think that's going to be one of the questions. Tyler Pilgrim joining us here in a couple of minutes, and we'll kind of discuss. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on what's going on with Atlanta United, and we will find out what the rundown is and what the topics are involving Chris Henderson, and what thoughts are in his mind as we get ready to put a bow on 25 and get you ready for 26. So that is, like I said, you're looking for a manager. That's kind of where we are. Then knowing what the pedigree is for Atlanta United, what the desires are for Atlanta United, that is the big question. You want someone who's going to do the quick turn. You want them to go and get the title, and then have have it come back down and have the sine wave happen all over again. Or do you want someone who's going to be chasing after consistency, be here long term, and have the growth be what the growth is? So that's the that is the other element in this. So that's kind of where we are. All right, live feed is up, and Abby, I wish we could take it live. I would love to take it live. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of a capability yet. So we are all now lying in wait. Tyler, what's the mug this morning?
Okay, so fun fact, I've finished my first mug, and the second one is being delivered.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, it is the Scarves and Spikes mug this morning.
Okay, just checking. So you're getting ready for mug number 2.
Yes.
And the question to the floor has been posed, and I know that I don't know if Chris will discuss it at all at 9:30 or whenever Chris comes up hot. And like I said, we'll keep an eye on what's going on over there. But the question now obviously has to do with head coach. Do you want someone who's going to be here long term? Do you want someone who's going to be here short term and have the succession plan built in underneath? I think that is the first question that you have involving anyone that walks in the door. There have been published reports about interviews happening, and that interviews continued with individuals yesterday as well. I don't know if that was round 2. I don't know if that was the I don't know if that was the miscongeniality bid or what. But Chris Henderson is up and running right now, and he's opening the notebook and he's getting ready to discuss. And like I said, we'll talk about stuff around 10:30, hopefully with Maddie and Jason, if they can get a signal out. So when it comes to your interactions, conversations, and anything and everything else going on, what has it been when it comes to manager, with turnover, with roster? What have the conversations been, and what has stuck with you when it comes to 2026 and Atlanta United?
They've been they've been all over the place, honestly. I think with Tata kind of being the front runner, we've known this essentially for a minute now, but it feels like forever at this point. But then you have the Gio Savarese name pop up, which I think was always going to be one that needed to be discussed. If those are the two kind of front runners, as I think the Athletic is saying, then to me, take the nostalgia thing away from Tata, take all that away. I still think Tata's the better fit, personally. That's not to say Gio's a bad coach. I just don't know that. I think he would be walking in a lot more blind, and in terms of what he would be working with. So, I think like where everybody's at, it's a bit all over the place. Some, I would say more than half for sure of folks that I've talked to, just whether it's like our Discord, just out and about people, they get excited about Tata. There's definitely I think maybe a little bit of cautious optimism,
right?
But there's the knowledge that at least there is more to this than just nostalgia. And then as far as other names, I mean, there's definitely some that I've heard some people adamantly refute.
Oh,
some that may have recently, within the past couple of days or a couple of months, lost their prior MLS jobs.
Yes.
But no, I mean, and then just in terms of roster decisions, I kind of kept putting it when we were doing our Waffle House episode last week.
Oh, yes.
I kind of kept throwing out, you know, and I think I might have mentioned it here, order of operations. Like you want to get your coach in as soon as possible, not rushing, but there needs to be a sense of urgency. And then from there, you know, the season itself is not even over yet. So then you have the time for the new coach to come in and say, all right, here is the broad picture. Let me go investigate the individuals. And from there, I can give my 2 cents or however many cents Chris Henderson wants from me in terms of end of year roster decisions.
Mm-hmm.
From there, then we start making moves.
Well, then let me posit this, and like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here. So if you want an individual, if you want an individual to come in, then why would that individual not have it just to be head coach? Why would that individual not be a part of either the discussions or understand the lay of the land when it comes to if you think that the roster is the roster, it may not really be the roster. And so you get to be adding to those 8 slots that we were talking about that are probably in in dispute or whatever. And you could have your part in outside of the DP discussion. And if somebody wanted to find a buyer, then you could have those expensive players that still have years on their deal jettisoned or what have you. So I don't know if the individual coming in would be hamstrung by the roster in as much. I think that they would have input, I would think, into those blank spaces. And then if there's interest from outside people with contracts that are still out there, I don't think you're just kind of coming in and you're hamstrung. It doesn't matter who you are, I wouldn't think, when it comes to roster build anyway in 26.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think whoever comes in, I think there are a couple of players on this roster through a variety of roster mechanisms,
Right.
could be on the fence of like, do we use a buyout or do we not pick up an option? I mean, some of them are that simple. And then you do have to look at some of them and say, like, are we going to try and work with this guy and bring them back? Their contract might be over, but are we going to try to work something out? And I think, yeah, I mean, Chris Henderson is not prior versions of this front office that maybe weren't as open. And I'm not saying that like the prior front office was like the coach didn't have a seat at the table, but I do think Chris Henderson is more open, and Garth, by his own admission, is more open to that being a team process, right? Like Garth said at the beginning of this past year, that he brought in all these guys, Javier Perez, this kind of like front group, Skate, all these guys, all these folks, to essentially work together on these roster decisions. This is not just Garth. This is not just Chris. This is like a team collective effort. And the coach, Ronnie Dyla, was involved in it, but the coach, whoever it may be, is going to be involved. So I think whoever does step in, that voice is immediately going to have some sway.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is going to be one of those where, it's a month before they get settled in.
You're stuck with this roster and, deal with these pieces. And then, it's like, here's your, it's like Top Chef, you sit there and it's like, okay, here's your ingredients, go. It's not a Top Chef kind of a thing. Or what's the one with the British guy?
MasterChef.
MasterChef. Okay.
I was watching that last night. It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So this isn't MasterChef or Top Chef. This is, all right, let's all go to the store together and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's like it's in between because some of them you're not going to be able to change. It's as simple as that. That's MLS.
Nor would you want to, yeah.
Nor would you want to, exactly. But like, I think you have to go into this particular offseason with an open mind. If you're Chris as well, like the U22 spots, some of them should be on the table for sure. If let's say Tata pops in and he says, "Hey, I got this portfolio And one of these guys, as he's done at Miami, he's done pretty much everywhere he's been. If he pops in and says, this kid's 20, I want him. I like him a lot. He's going to bring something to this team. I mean, I think Chris has to say, all right, cool. Like, we definitely need to lean into that and see what's up. How can we make it work?
Right. Just a couple of quick notes. Chris is saying that they're going to add scouts, improve international recruitment, adding pieces, looking to improve medical and performance departments as well. Like, so it's just as stuff comes across, and this is from our friend Doug Robertson at the AJC, I will be drifting in with what Doug is working at 280 characters or less when that comes into the
I'm
conversation.
getting updates from the Ache. So
Yes.
if he pops in and says anything,
yes. And you mentioned the U22s as of right now, and we have the U22s and the homegrowns that are definitely a part of the discussion for Atlanta United. You have 2 open U22 slots and probably a third when you go through the machination of not renewing or not picking up an option on Edwin Mosqueda. So he's got a contract through 26. He's out on loan, and so probably what is going to happen with Mosqueda is, do not be surprised if the team that he is currently on loan to decides, hey, yeah, we'll pick up that salary and we'll take him off your hands. So you could have 3 U22 slots available to you for the 26 season, and it would be that dossier that you discuss that would be a part of sit there. It's like, oh, how about this dude, and this dude? So you'd have your 3 U22 slots available right now. Remember your DPs, Miggy, Latelot, and Miranchuk. You have 7 international slots, and it is Miggy, Alzate, Amador, Barakal, Latelot, Mihai, and Miranchuk. That's your 7 internationals, 3 DPs, 2 U22s available to you. This is a 3-and-3 model for Atlanta United. It is not the 2-and-4 like you've seen with some clubs. They've gone with the 3-and-3 model. And the discussions for players and contracts and options, it is not the higher salaried individuals that we're talking about here. Although if someone's going to knock on your door and be interested in any of those individuals, you're always going to listen. It is Brad out of contract, option for Ronald, option for Togashi, option for Josh Cohen, option for Jamal. Jamal's price point is definitely something to be considered, much like Brooks's. Brooks Lennon has an option for 26 as well. And then you get into supplementals, options with Leo, Afonso, options with Matt Edwards on a homegrown, option with Jay Fortune, options with Jaden Hibbert and Will Riley and Nick Sessick. And so really, I mean, you mention that you got those like 2 dudes who have high price points, and Brooks and Jamal. Everybody else is a manageable price point or is a supplemental / homegrown. So there's stuff that you can play with here when it comes to this roster construction of which you speak, sir.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's why I say there are a couple that you might have to spend a little bit more time looking at them and then looking at the books and then looking back at them and saying, all right, is this worth it? Is it going to be the right fit? And ultimately, I think because everybody else that's still in the front office will have had a sample size to work with, except for the coach that's coming in. I think the coach might need to come in and just be that fresh set of eyes that says, like, all right, I've reviewed, X amount of minutes that this person has played over the past X number of years. I think they'll fit, or I don't think they'll fit. And it might be as simple as that. So it's not like there's a ton that you just have to go and say, like, oh man, this is going to take forever to decide. Like, some of these guys, they're taking up very minimal space, and they're good players. They just have been part of a system or whatever that just didn't work, and that's fine. You see what happens with other clubs. You see it in MLS all the time. You can go from dead last to up near the top super quick with a lot of the same players. It's not that you just change around the entire roster. It's just you get a fresh set of eyes, fresh blood, whatever, and that makes everything fit.
Jay Fortune is turning 23 in December. December 30th, he turns 23. So that was the question that David had. Are there any current players who you would consider moving to U22? And then we answered the Jay question about turning 23 in in late December, toward the end of the calendar year. He's one of those calendar year kids where you know where you stand. He's not like a late where it's like, oh yeah, his birthday's like right there at the late end of the window. So you're playing with the team that's the year underneath you. Not like when we were playing organized baseball when we were growing up in the youth leagues or anything like that, where you're a late kid, so you're going with the grade underneath you. Any current players you'd consider moving to the U22s?
I would say Noah Cobb if he were still here.
Well, but technically he's on loan.
He
So.
technically still is. We'll see how that goes. Jay, that was one of those that was asked at the beginning of this season, could you swap him over? And at the time, yes. Who else?
Well, I mean, you're looking at from a homegrown perspective.
I think maybe Luke.
Well, but Luke is also under contract through 27.
Yeah.
So you can look at Luke under contract through 27, DCQ under contract through 28, option for 29. Noah unavailable. He's on loan to Colorado once again through 26, contract through 26, option for 27. Matt Edwards is a homegrown, but you have 2 option years behind this one. We mentioned Jay with 1 more option year. You got Jaden Hibbert, who would be drafted, so he's a supplemental. Will Riley would be Will Riley's under contract through this year, option 6, 7, and 8. Nick Sessick the same.
How old is Will though?
Let's see. So how old is Will Riley? Let's see. So if we work this quickly, because I know that you are up against it and you turn into a pumpkin very quickly.
All good.
Let's see. Will Riley is 22. Once again, he is turning 23 in early December. So he and Jay Fortune are on the same track.
Okay. So, I think kind of to answer that question for David, it would be, I think in my head, this is front office Tyler Pilgrim, who doesn't have a job in the front office.
Front office Tyler Pilgrim. I feel like that's,
But if it were me, I'm looking at the U22 spot, whether you transition somebody that's in the club now to that, or you go out and find somebody. The ultimate goal, the ultimate pathway for a U22 in my head should be big upside and not necessarily expected to start all the games or really even half of them, but expected to get like significant minutes, coming in the, let's say the 70th minute or whatever, to really get those minutes, contribute to not only their growth with the team and grow into either a starter with the club, or B, somebody that you as a business you move on from and sell and in theory make money on. I'd like to see Atlanta focus more on bringing people in and keeping them. But that's why I say, like Luke Brennan, we've seen what he's capable of, not just with the first team this year, but over the years with the twos. He has a I think, in my opinion, a big upside. So yeah, you could transition him, but he's again on that other contract, so kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But like, he's an example of somebody I could see. Jay would be somebody I could see because you know what you're getting out of them, and you're going to try to get them as many minutes as you can, but you don't want to necessarily have to rely on them to play and start 34 matches because they are young.
Yep. The last generation Adidas, David was asking about GAs. Last generation Adidas player that Atlanta United had was Eric Centeno.
Yeah.
And that was back in for the 22 draft. To give you an idea, there were only 4 generation Adidas players in 25's draft class. Manu Dua has performed very well in that group at San Diego. Tate Johnson is doing well with Vancouver. The other 2, Alex Harris with Colorado, Dean Bolts with the Fire. Only 2 in the 24 draft class. Honor Jomfy with Houston and Kamani Stewart-Baines with Colorado. Then you had a boatload of them. The first 5 were GAs in 23. Apononu, Bolma, Bombito, Diop, Fodry, Jackson, Shaq Muhammad, JC Ngondo. So 23 really was like the last big class of generation Adidases. And then
Adidas.
Adidai. 24 and 25, you've only had 6 total in the GA slots for your draft positioning in Major League Soccer. So and so Luke Brennan, I think the numbers that are left on Luke's current contract, I think would prevent him unless they, rolled him into a U22 slot. But I think that his current contract keeps him locked in that particular spot as a supplemental and a homegrown. So I think that he would end up being older than 22 at the end of the deal anyway. So I think that's where we are. All right, you're at 9:50. I know that you have to go. Any other thoughts with you before you get out of here and we analyze everything after the fact with Chris Henderson next coming days?
No, I mean, I think, go into this Chris Henderson conference not expecting, a new coach to be announced
Yeah.
at the end of it.
No.
I think temper expectations a little bit, but I would definitely say, like, it's gonna be sooner than later for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
So, and the stuff with Chris, it's what you said earlier, the updates about, like, new scouts, technical staff, whatever. That stuff really, really interests me because I think that needs a lot of a refresh just as much as some of the players do. So, um, look, it's a front office, so you're gonna get a lot of, like, milk toast kinda answers at times.
You're going to get front office answers.
Yeah, which is fine, but at the end of the day, like, this is where things are being put out in the public, but things are already changing, as we can see behind the scenes. Now it's just a matter of seeing what announcements come out in the next couple weeks.
All right. Go and corrupt all those that you work with and make sure that they are of the Tyler Pilgrim way.
I will. I'll do my best.
And have an amazing and as dry as humanly possible day, but make sure that that they are all in lockstep with the real world as you visit us on Wednesday. Show tonight.
Yes, yeah, show tonight. We're actually gonna have a kind of a busy night. It'll just be a normal show. We're gonna be talking about the Chris Henderson stuff and anything else that pops up. And then we're gonna be doing another unrelated to Atlanta, just a watch along of the LAFC game. We did one the other night for Hell Is Real, just hanging out, chatting,
Hmm.
having fun. So we'll be doing one of those late
Yes.
MLS After
I
Dark.
was going to say MLSE After Dark with LAFC in Austin. So,
Yep.
as always, my friend, thanks for dropping by. I know that things were kind of truncated this morning because of the anticipation of the Chris Henderson thing.
It's all good.
We will catch up with you soon, my friend.
Indeed. Thank you.
All right. He's on his second cup of coffee, by the way, and that was imported in while he was here. Okay. So, uh, updating a couple of things. And this is and this is from Doug Robertson of the AJC. They apparently Atlanta United has also had let go of assistant Kenny Miller. Carl Robinson remains on staff for now. Chris said, "I don't think teams were afraid to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That has to change." Like I said, this is from Doug Robertson, who's been typing quickly. So hopefully we can get some context from Maddie and Jason once the event is finished. Chris says if he feels, once again, this is from Doug. Feels if coaching hire can be finalized soon enough, Atlanta United has enough time to get everything done ahead of 26th and set it up for success. The trio running Atlanta United right now, and that is Chris Henderson, Demetrius Estathiou, and Skate Knopfsinger. They right now report directly to Rich McKay. Josh Blank has also been very involved. Support has been great, and everyone is aligned in the same mission. So that is the early returns from the Chris Henderson media availability, the end of season press conference that is going on right now at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. I'm trying to see if I missed anything where the early 280 character discussions have been concerned. We mentioned coaching hire, mentioned Josh. I don't think teams were afraid to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That has to change. So, and this is obviously done as questions are being given to Chris and the responses being released. Chris Henderson says everyone played the role in Atlanta United's failings this MLS season. And once again, adding some scouts, improving international recruitment by adding pieces there, and improving medical and performance departments as well. So, I would anticipate in this media availability that you are going to be getting a lot of end of season stuff. You'll be getting some admissions like we've seen from Chris so far, and you're also going to be looking at, in addition to obviously the head coach and everything, looking to what else Chris and the soccer operations and the relationships with Demetrius and with Skate, how everyone is looking forward to what are those things that they need to attack going into the 26th season. So it's this media availability is a chance to look back and reflect on 25 and then try and set the table for 26. There are things obvious that you have to set up for 26, but it's in addition to the manpower and the roster, it's about philosophy and things and departments that we may not necessarily discuss on a daily basis. So you'll probably be getting that as a part of the discussions as well. If you're not watching the Chris Henderson Avail, and you're hanging out here with us as we kind of do analysis and play by play as we go forward, and can let you know what is kind of being said. But obviously, when it's over, hopefully we can catch up with Maddie and Jason starting about 10:30, and then we can figure out, okay, so what was the vibe like in the room? Uh, we mentioned Chris Henderson and discussing personnel issues and things like that. But just getting the overall play-by-play of the room and what Chris has been saying so far this morning. But yeah, obviously when things continue to drift into the conversation, obviously we'll let you know what is going on with Atlanta United in all of the discussions that we have at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. Okay, I think the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, is going to be joining us in a handful of minutes. Like I said, this is where we'll talk about everything Major League Soccer and get into the playoffs. There was a match last night in Charlotte, and it was the first time that you had a road team come in and win, and it was NYC, and it was just one goal, and that's all you needed. And it was a frustrating night across the board for Charlotte. And Dean Smith, post match, he let a lot of folks know about it, and we'll get into his post game, which was, how do we phrase, interesting. We'll use that word coming up in a bit. We've got Austin and LAFC tonight. No surprise, Austin FC is a rather large underdog. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the match day ones and everything with Dylan, hopefully coming up here in a handful of minutes. So, like I said, we're kind of drifting in and out of the press conference and the media availability with Chris Henderson, in addition to letting you know what's going on in the morning, and drifting through all of that. So it is, once again, where's my other update? Okay. And then there was a question about Garth Lagerwey, and it is Doug gets the impression that Garth is going to be fully focused on his recovery. So it is going to be, as it was released in the club announcement last week, that Garth is going to focus on his health, and it is going to be continuing what had happened when he initially stepped away. It's going to be Chris Henderson, it's going to be Demetrius Evstathiou, and it's going to be Skate Nofsinger. So you're going to have the three of them doing what they've been doing, and it's just been reinforced. Once again, Garth is going to be focused on his health, as he should, because cancer sucks. And so it'll be the three of them still doing what they've been doing. It's just now you're in an off season, and you're heading into the 26 year, and you're going to be reporting to Rich. You're going to be reporting to Rich McKay and to Josh Blank and to ultimately Arthur as well. But right now, that's the path. Those three are not changing or anything like that. So it is those three reporting to Rich, and then Rich to Josh, and Josh and the top end of AMBSE. So that top end has not changed, and was discussed in the press conference. Okay, Jonathan Spector is going to remain as director of recruitment. Brad Gazan and the team are talking about different roles. Nothing has been settled yet. So that is part of what is going on at the Children's Healthcare Atlanta Training Ground. Like I said, when I see something drift out, I'll let you know what is being talked about topics wise. For some reason, and I don't know, and I don't know why, but for some reason, maybe it's just an option, but I was trying to get closed captioning to work on the subtitles and the closed captioning for this press conference, so I wouldn't have to read lips and then continue to talk. But no, apparently closed captioning has been unavailable for this, and that's why I was trying to sit there and go, okay, can I talk about this, or this? Well, who knows? But and then also, when it comes to players, it is, according to Doug, Chris Henderson expects that Atlanta United's 3DPs will be with the team next season. But I will, when it comes to, and this is what we were discussing with Tyler just a second ago, if someone is going to knock on your door and be interested in an individual, you're not going to say no. And this is just something that reminding, it doesn't matter, excuse me, how successful you are, how unsuccessful you are in a season. It's not good business just to not pick up the phone for like a triple negative. So if somebody's interested, you're always going to listen. So if you sit there and look at roster construction and just keep an eye out for those kinds of things, if someone knocks on your door, you're not going to say no. If someone wants to buy your house and your house on the market is, if your house on the market is at a decent price and it's been appraised at a pretty decent amount and you're thinking about moving, then when someone knocks on your door and an agent sits there and goes, well, hey, I'm interested in buying your house, you can sit there and probably set your price unless you're really just looking to get out of the neighborhood, but you're going to listen to the agent. If the offer's not good enough, then you're going to stand pat. So, it's when it comes to rosters, seriously, when it comes to rosters, you've got the roster that you have right now. We've talked about the decisions that have to be made with contracts. The players that are still going to be under contract with you, like I said, they'll be a part of things. You would anticipate that they would be because they're under contract with you. But if someone knocks on your door, you're not going to sit there and not pick up the phone. You're not gonna sit there and go, no. So it's Atletico de Madrid. No, I'm not going to pick up the phone. You can always listen. So that is that's kind of what I was thinking about. The first thing that popped into my head with that. No, it's all good. David, don't worry about a typing barrage. It's all good. And apparently there is a chance to second chance register for Friday at 10 a.m. for a new pre-sale. Speaking of which, I tried my darndest. And I was trying to, and I don't know how many of you are fans of Rush, but I tried to get into the pre-sale. And when 2 tickets were going for $850 and get-ins were going for like $211 to $285 and $350, and the get-in at Madison Square Garden was at $381, I'm like, nope, I can't do it. And I know that Dylan did it for Oasis, but I don't have the courage to pull the trigger for Rush. I couldn't do it. So I could not do it. They went on pre-sale, Dylan, and so when you went to go see Oasis, did you spend a car payment on your Oasis tickets?
I had 4 tickets. More than a car payment, but I did get the money back too.
So
okay. My single ticket, no, not a car payment.
Yeah, okay. So that was kind of what I was getting at. Your single ticket, was that a car payment, an insurance payment, or something like that?
No, I mean it. I got it face. Thankfully, it was still expensive, but I best decision I made.
Okay, because I was in the queue for Rush tickets for the 50-something tour, and it was like $381 get in at Madison Square. It was right now tickets are available for like $211 to $311 just to get in a couple of venues in the midweek later in the year, and I'm like, I can't pull that trigger. I just can't do it.
That's too bad. I could have given you a tour of Dylan Butler Estates.
Yes, you could have. Yeah, absolutely.
You would have had to wear hard hats, but
I mean, I would have thoroughly enjoyed it. But
maybe a culinary tour around the area.
But the thing is that we could do that in season in Major League Soccer and wouldn't necessarily have to be tied to a concert where it would be like, oh, I'm parachuting in. Oh, here's a concert. Oh, I've got to go to the plane. I've got to leave. Now, this would be like, take a weekend. If there's something going on in Harrison, if there's something going on at Dylan Butler Estates, if Atlanta United's in town, if when the cup that the world is chasing after next year is going on and we come and visit, it doesn't have to be tied to an overnight trip or anything like that. I'm just, we could still do those things. It was just, I had a bit of sticker shock. Don't get me wrong. And this would be stuff that the boss and I would go do, and we wouldn't be getting money back like you were in your situation.
I feel that's across the board though, man. Like like I have a very eclectic taste in music.
Understood.
So, I've seen they had that hip hop show at Yankee Stadium 2 years ago. The celebration of hip hop, and it was like everybody and their mother ended up with like 2 a.m, I think, with Run DMC.
Wow.
Going on stage for the last time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great show. I've gone to see Eric Church and Luke Bryan and obviously Oasis and U2, and I saw House of Pain and Rage Against the Machine together in the early 90s. So I've run the gamut, but yeah, concert tickets these days, oh my, holy smoke, they are expensive.
And so it was one of those where I might wait closer to like in November or something and try and see what it might end up with. But intrigued, but couldn't quite pull the trigger yet. So that was my last couple of days in trying to figure out, okay, do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I do it? Do I not do it? And I haven't done it yet. So
I've heard my first ever concert was at the Garden, actually.
So who was it?
It was Bryan Adams.
Yes, and apparently he still puts on good shows.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal show. It was man alive. It was maybe 1988. Maybe. There was a Philadelphia band. I don't even remember them. A little bit of a one-hit wonder. The Hooters.
Yeah, absolutely. They played the melodica.
And We Dance was one of their songs, right?
Yes, absolutely true. That is true.
They opened for Bryan Adams. It was the tour after this his big like Summer of '69 album. So it was In the Heat of the Night, I think was the name of the album, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I was I'm dating myself here, obviously, but I think maybe 12, 11 at the time. So
okay, understood. I get that.
Fun show. How about you?
Well, shoot, what was the last one that I've gone to see Jason Isbell a lot recently. The boss is a big Isbell fan, and so we go to like
your first ever show.
Oh, first ever ELO New World Record Tour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, ELO World Record Tour, and it was in 75, and they had a robot come out on stage. Introduce the band.
All right.
Oh yeah, and then of course when Jeff Lynne said that ELO was touring for the last time, we went and saw them. So they might be the most recent concert. And Jeff Lynne did a tight hour 50, and it was a great show. And when you can bang on a fire extinguisher to get your accented notes for Mr. Blue Sky, you can't go wrong.
No.
First match days are wrapping up in the postseason for Major League Soccer. And we had all of the home teams win until yesterday to date. And it was the future tenants of Dillon Butler Estates coming down to the bank in Charlotte and getting the win. Dean Smith, who, if he's not uncomfortable, it would probably be uncomfortable for the rest of us. He always feels like he needs to complain about something. It's almost like Schleprock, from the Flintstones. And last night, they lose 1-0 to NYCFC. Quote, I just felt like we didn't handle the pressure of being the home team in a playoff game. It's the first time we've done it, and I didn't think we handled it well enough. I thought we were really poor in the first half. We gave the ball away too often, broke down with our touch at times. In the final third, we misplaced passes, gave the ball away too cheaply. If you do that against any team, you're going to struggle a bit. And then he comes in with this. By the way, MLS, thanks very much for the Tuesday night game. Gee, thanks.
I mean, that's what it is, really. I mean, Tuesday nights, they really struggle.
Yes. So obviously, if I'm the schedule maker, I'm sitting there going, okay, so Dean Smith is yelling at the league office. All right. So, look, a Tuesday's open.
I will say this, and it's really, You can kind of only do this with these best of 3 series, but I love the sort of Stanley Cup playoff approach to this,
Mhm.
where there's a match every night.
Mhm.
Maybe multiple matches on one night, but I mean, we're still in round 1 today.
Yeah.
With LAFC and Austin. So I think that's great. I think it gives um, I think it ramps up the attention and the excitement, and you don't have to pick between games necessarily, right? They're all sort of the one-offs that you could watch um, the full 90 of.
Mhm. And that's the one thing, although I get not wanting to compete with college football on Saturday,
Yeah.
I think that they missed an opportunity for
But you did all year. Like I hear, I mean, well, they didn't all year because college football isn't year round. But no, I hear you, and that could have at least been like a single game, But
Mhm. And I was thinking that Friday you missed an opportunity with an East-West doubleheader. Because if you are bringing in Messi and Friends in Nashville as your early, have something happening late, I think that you could have had Friday night somewhat monopolized if you'd gone East-West for your doubleheader there on a Friday. I think that was an opportunity missed, though.
I will say this about that
Or
game.
slide the start time and where it's not 6:55,
Right,
slide it
right.
more into your prime time prime time part when it comes to that start time.
But I will say about that game, I did. If we roll back the tape from last week's segment,
Ooh.
I believe completely nailed that. I said NYCFC would win. Alonso Martinez would be the guy to get it done. So
Look at you. Yeah, now I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it. When you look at the other serieses, and we've come to this particular point. By the way, are you on the desk tonight for a late night?
no,
Good for you. Absolutely.
no, and I have no playoff soccer games tonight either. So
Oh, wow. Excellent. All right. So Cincinnati and Columbus, you figured hell is real was going to be real, and it was. Minnesota and Seattle was more hell than hell is real. I mean, literally, Minnesota and Seattle. Seattle is trying as best they can to play soccer, and Minnesota United is just kind of like, no, we're not. That's just not our bag, man. And so ball's got cooties. They're launching it long. You do all the work, and then you end up with taking it to PKs. And I've never seen more posts and crossbars in a PK setting in quite some time. But for some reason, Minnesota United they do their thing and they work their way through, and they're boring as the day is long sometimes, and they've made it their way through. Messi and Friends, I think, made an early statement when it came to their match day one back on Friday. Philly and Chicago, are there chinks in the armor in Philly, giving up late leads? Vancouver, no problems, and San Diego and Portland. You figured San Diego would take care of business. Portland kind of scared you in the second half, but you took care of business. What else sticks in your mind from the first match day ones?
I think the most impressive / comprehensive performance might have been Vancouver's.
Mm-hmm.
Right where and Miami right there with them. So I will say on the bracket that I submitted, I had Vancouver, and we spoke about this, winning it all.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked the part, right, in that first game. So we don't know Brian White's availability.
Right.
It's tricky with hamstrings, obviously, but if they take care of business in Frisco, which I think they will, now you've got a little bit of added time to rest and get yourself whole if you're Vancouver. But they looked very, very good. Miami looked very good. Now I think it's kind of, and look, we do have a match tonight, obviously LAFC Austin, but um, I would be shocked if it's not LAFC winning that one as well.
Absolutely.
And now the talk kind of goes to, well, how many of these will go to 3, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, in the East, I think just Miami is too powerful with their attack. I don't see them. They just got to win in Jodis, right? So
Yeah, they could play 4 straight times if
why
it
not? Why not do it again?
Yeah.
I think they win that in 2. I think Chicago has a chance at home to, especially at SeatGeek, to make that, to send that one back to Subaru Park. So, I think Zinkernackel's availability is a big part of it.
God
And I
bless.
think also Gutierrez has to start, not just come off the bench as he did. So I think if those changes are made, I like Chicago's chance there. I think NYCFC wraps it up at home.
Mhm.
And again, in that 4-5, it's really not a big upset, right? But um, surely then we'll have a complaint about playing Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely. Or the size of the surface.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not regulation. It's waiting for one of those. It's
And
not wide enough.
then
Why are we playing on his futsal pitch? Just waiting for all of
that
those
was good.
things. I'm trying.
I think hell is real, and I don't know if this is more my tactical brain or my heart
Mhm.
wanting it.
Yeah.
But my hope is that hell is real gets a third game. So
I think it will, yeah.
they're not going to let Darlington Nagby's final game
No.
be at home be a loss. So
Mm-mm.
I like that one going 3. In the West, I think Vancouver wraps that one up fairly simply.
Yeah.
I think the same with LAFC.
Yeah.
Even though they haven't even played a game yet, right? Like
You're like, yeah, we're 2 and done with that. Yeah, we're fine. Yeah, you're done.
I think San Diego, my concern with them was them at home, and they did that. So I think they're a better team somehow on the road.
Okay.
So I think they'll take care of that. And I think Seattle wins at home as well and forces that one back to Allianz. So we'll have a game 3 there.
Yeah, in the Chicago Philly series, what the hell was Orahel thinking when he decided to charge into the Gutierrez Wagner tete-a-tete and just try? Look, dude came in from Des Moines. That's how far off screen he was when he came charging in, and just lays out Wagner. Wagner baits Chicago on the hole. Orahel bites on it, and so you won't have Orahel for game number 2 because he knocks Kai Wagner off his pins. So I'd love to.
I mean, I might be more old school here. I didn't think that was a red. Like, he shoved them over, sure, but
Well, and like I said, I know that Wagner baited him, and so of course he accentuated. But I'm just saying, it's like, dude, what are you thinking in that moment?
what I get, I do get what he's thinking, right? He's thinking, Wagner's an agitator.
Yes.
I'm sticking up for our guy,
Mhm.
Guti, right? Like, he's so much of what the Fire is. He's a younger player. I'm not letting you go after my guy.
You're not going after my guy, and so you end up not having Orahel. But no, I think that Zinkernagel and Kuipers. How can you in a top 4 media market fly below the radar? That's the thing that gets to me. Is you've got a duo like that, and then you bring in someone like Gutierrez, and you have the attack, and then then you'll have the moments where you can knock Chicago down in transition and get something going the other way. But to me, Zinkernagel and Kuipers in Chicago, they kind of flew below the radar this year. I guess because we were all looking at other places. We're looking at Dreyer in San Diego. We're looking at Messi and friends, and so the folks in Chicago, they just kind of did their thing. I mean, it seems like I might be underselling it a bit, but it was just them doing their thing. But it was real. It was a really good 2-man relationship that they forged this year under Greg Berhalter.
Well, I think part of the reason that probably happened was because I think people were thinking of what has been a year after year narrative for Chicago, right? And thinking like, well, that's nice, but they're gonna flame out as a team. So like, kind of don't even give them any credence, right? So
Yeah. You look at the 8-9s, and we've seen a couple of coaching vacancies. Chris Armas is not having his contract renewed in Colorado. that occurred. You had Luis Muzzi stepping away in Orlando, and I wonder about Oscar Pareja now in Orlando, with especially how the season ended for them in the 8-9 and losing, I think, 8 of 9 or 7 of 8, including that matchup. It's still kind of silly season out there, and you wonder about Colorado, and now I wonder about Orlando with front office changes and things like that. And
now Red Bull,
and yes, Sandro Schwartz,
both.
with both.
Yeah.
This was a wild thought that I had, but tell me how wild it is. So you get a guy promoted from Red Bulls 2 to fill in the slots in the front office. Schwartz out. Is it crazy for me to think that if Michael Bradley wins MLS Next Pro's title, that he could be the next coach at Red Bulls?
I don't think it's crazy, but I will say,
I mean, obviously the experience factor is there.
if Jim Curtin is interested, that's your
Yeah.
guy, right? Like, it's a little bit like a few years back, it was John Wolniak who was the Red Bulls 2 head coach, right? And people were wondering, well, does he get the head job? And then he didn't, and it was others. And but to me, it's, Curtin knows the style, right? Like, I think if he puts the resume in, I think he should be the guy.
Okay. And I mean, the biggest issue, there was the discussion about New England, and then he wants to stay close to home because of his latter high school age children getting close to graduating. And so he's getting closer and closer to empty nest, but he's not there yet. So he wants to kind of stay close to home. And that's why folks thought that New England might be too far. But is Harrison, New Jersey close enough to where, yeah, I'll take the train, or they'll give me a, the man needs a helicopter, whatever. He can just go from home in Philly. They pick him up in the backyard in like Chester or something, and he flies up to Harrison every day.
But it's not from the train. I mean, think about it. Like, the training facility though is further out in Jersey, so.
But if you got the chopper, you ain't got to worry about no cars.
From Philly to the training facility, maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more. So I don't think it's too bad.
So if Jim Curtin puts in the CV, then you're saying that's the guy. Close up shop, and you're good.
100%.
And then you would have Bradley Carnell in Philly, and
Yes.
you would have Jim Curtin in Harrison, and two guys basically within like arm's length of each other, basically doing the same thing. But it's a little different with Carnell from Curtin. And how different would Curtin be with Red Bulls? I mean, obviously it's the same premise, but how different would Curtin's Red Bulls be than the previous incarnations of Red Bulls? Would it be that different?
I don't.
I mean,
maybe. I think it all depends too on how leaning into energy drink soccer that they'll be, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think we've seen, and certainly in Philly, you can't just play bumper cars. Like you need a little bit of sophistication to your game as well. And I think we've seen that from them. And I think that would likely be the case for Red Bull.
I'm intrigued with the idea of a Jim Curtin perhaps going to Red Bull. And so, yeah, then as much now this is me asking a dumb question, but how much of a rivalry is there between Red Bulls and Philly, because it's both in the Northeast?
So good. It's actually a good question. And it's one of those where, Red Bull's traditional old school rivalries, DC United, right? I don't know if that's so much of rivalry anymore.
Yeah, because if one team is off the rails bad, it's not really. It's like Red Sox and Yankees.
And I think that's more. I think it's a little bit more for the older school fans of both clubs. So, then obviously the obvious one is the derby with NYCFC. So that's the, like, if you ask a Red Bull fan who your rival is, they will say NYCFC, and vice versa. So Philly is sort of like in that, hey, we want a rivalry too, and it's not the main one for Red Bull, but if you ask anyone from New Jersey about anything Philadelphia, or if you ask anyone from New York about anything Philadelphia, they'll say we don't like them. So I think it's like a secondary one, but in that sense, yeah, this could light a little bit of a flame there,
because you would have two teams with their interwoven coach relationships with the previous. It's like dealing with the ex-wife, and it's like you move back into the subdivision with your new bride, and it's like, oh, there's my old house. Yeah, there's the new guy, and he's hanging out with my old crew, and so I'm moving back into the subdivision. I'm just
he's like, look at that. He's got that's my mower. That's my blower over there. What the heck?
It's like, it's like, what is that? I spent good money on that at home at Builders Square, man. You're not treating that thing right. It doesn't sound right. It sounds like you need to clean the engine on that thing. But yeah, he'd be moving back into the old subdivision, staring at all of his old lawn equipment, getting ready to, maybe he's got newer lawn equipment, but maybe he's wishing that he had the familiarity with the mower because the seat's all that familiar and everything. So it's like you got the same style-ish, two dudes who would have ended up flipping positions and clubs, and a rivalry idea with your new coach and your new coach who used to be our old coaches. And so, I mean,
you know what it reminds me of a little bit, now that you say it that way? It reminds me a little bit of like Van Halen.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, you had David Lee Roth, and then it goes to Sammy Hagar, and then people were calling him Van Hagar.
Yes, they were.
And then David Lee Roth was doing his tours, but then David Lee Roth came back with Van Halen, but then that really didn't work out too well. And then Sammy Hagar was upset at it. So it's a little bit of
so it's the whole Van Hagar thing that's laid out. You look at LAFC and Austin tonight, and I think the only way that Austin sticks with it is if Brad Stuver has one of those games in capital letters.
Yeah, definitely.
It's when you see what LAFC does, especially at home with Sonny and Denny Bouanga, and you're looking at Nathan Ordaz and just how deep they are right now. It is impressive to see at times when you just see how it floats almost, and it's just. It is effortless. It is quick. It is lethal. It is dangerous. And I think that Austin's in trouble.
I don't agree.
Juice boxes, by the way, just to put a bow on it, because the numbers were huge. Let me see if they continue to be huge, by the way. Let's see as we go here. Hang on. And so, of course, it's in alphabetical order, so I have to scroll all the way down to you before we get juice boxes. Minus 263 for LAFC tonight. 90-minute draws a plus 370, and Austin is a plus 619 in your juice boxes, sir. So it ain't looking good. So you're saying that on the weekend, or on November 1st, so that would be otherwise known as Saturday or the weekend, you're thinking that NYC, who's a current favorite, is going to advance. You're thinking that Fire in SeatGeek, which I think has turned into an advantage because it's a smaller, more intimate thing, and it's not at the spaceship, and you're not all spaced out and everything. Fire's a favorite on the plus side, so you think that's going to go 3. Messi and Friends, a slight favorite at Geodis. You think that's going to be 2 and done. You think Vancouver, who's a minus side favorite, is going to go ahead and advance against FC Dallas. And Portland and San Diego, what are you thinking there? Is it going to go 3?
San Diego.
Okay, San Diego's a slight favorite on the plus side at a plus 135. Portland is a plus 160. And then Cincinnati and Crew, hell is real. You think that Crew at a minus 119 is going to take that to a game 3. Seattle is November 3rd, and that is going to be a minus 169, and that one's going to go 3. That's what you're saying, sir?
That's what
All
I'm
right.
saying.
So what is the itinerary with you and MLSsoccer.com and the calls aplenty of which you sent to my Instagram account that I have to watch when the show is over?
Yeah, that one was a
Okay.
fun one. Yeah, what am I now at? Today is the first no broadcast in Saturday. From Saturday till last night, I had 6 games. A little bit of a break today. Supposed to have a game tomorrow with 40-mile-an-hour winds and heavy
I'm thinking
rains,
not
and
so much.
I hope not, but as of right now, it's still on. So then I've got county finals Thursday, Friday, doubleheader Saturday.
Okay. And
So all those on Varsity Media YouTube. I will say though, I've been blessed a little bit here with of the last 1, 2, 3, 4 games, 3 were no, I think 4 out of the last 5. 4 out of the last 5 were 1-0s.
oh wow.
And 3 of those 4 were decided inside the final 5 minutes, including the one that I sent you, which was in double overtime.
Double overtime. We love those. As always, my friend, great to see you. Glad that you have a day off where you can spend time with family and catch your breath a little bit.
Not so much off. You know
Yes,
how it
yes,
goes.
I do.
I'm building charts for tomorrow.
Yes, you
So
are. The
and phone calls as well with coaches
charts
later.
and conference calls and all the things. As always, my friend, great to see you. To break things down, we'll see how accurate your bracket is, and we'll catch up with you again next week. Games permitting when it comes to the varsity medias. As always, it's great to see you, my friend. There,
buddy.
there goes. Oh, what's your mug? Silly me.
Oh, I went Yankees.
Okay, yeah, of course you did. Yes, it is the fall classic. Yes, and we'd like to welcome those who've just finished watching the 18 inning game with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. Be safe, my friend. We'll see you soon. All right, there goes Dylan. So Dylan went with the Yankees mug today, and so that is the rundown with everything going on in Major League Soccer with the postseason heading into match day 2s. Dean Smith is yelling and complaining about a Tuesday night. Like I said, if I'm the schedule maker, I'm sitting there going from now on, it's like, oh, okay, hey, we got a Tuesday night slot. There we go. And so we'll keep an eye on everything going on with the rest of the MLS Cup playoffs. Once again, late tonight is your rundown of involving Austin on the road at LAFC. And I didn't want to quite look at the numbers for your totals and goals and things like that. But yeah, as you notice, Austin is a plus 619 on the board. Looking at this road trip of theirs to LAFC, and we'll find out. Like I said, I think it's going to have to be defensive, very defensive for Nico Estevez and for Austin FC as they get into match day 1 involving LAFC. And it will be, if it's not, it could be one of those nights where once LAFC gets the first one, it could come in bunches and it could be 2 and 3 very, very quickly at BMO Stadium there in Los Angeles as LAFC is getting to start their 2025 postseason tonight against Austin FC. And so you heard Dylan's responses and his layout in his bracket. And Dr. D says he still doesn't think that Orahel should have gotten a red, or if you go red, you give it to both, meaning Wagner and Orahel, and call it a day. But yeah, just the Orahel storming in from you see the camera angle where it's Gutierrez and Wagner. Wagner goes down, and it's just kind of like thump, and then literally screaming in from the left is like you see the shot, and then you see Orahel just come in and go bang, and then Wagner goes down and gets the red there. So they won't have Orahel in match day 2. But to Dylan's point, I didn't fill out a bracket this time, but I do think that it will be. I think that they will win in Bridgeview, and I think that Bridgeview has created an environment that is difficult for some. So I think that they will win that game number 2, and we'll see what's going on. All right, so let's go to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground and catch up with Maddie and Jason and find out their take from the Chris Henderson end of season media availability. And they are SDH on the road. And so now that the availability has been done for probably about 40 minutes or so, whoever wants to jump in first, takeaways from the Chris Henderson press conference. We did kind of get some greatest hits on social media, but for the more in-depth thoughts, I wanted to go to you too. So what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to talk about anything super specific in this because you are in the midst of a coaching search. And I think Chris is dead on in what he said. Like, you're not going to say anything here that gives somebody who maybe hasn't done an interview an advantage in knowing exactly what the team wants. So, you got to play the game a little bit. I think the things that jumped out to me that I probably took away the strongest were he wants this team to be attacking. He wants this team to be on the front foot. He talked about it specifically, how he wants this team to play at home. He also agreed that this team needs to be more resilient, tougher, more difficult to beat on the road. And it goes back to some of the things that, we've talked about and Pineda talked about and Valentino talked about and Dyla talked about in terms of the team needing to not be as nice and needing to, not be as soft. I think those are things when you start to look at upgrading the roster that are going to be an important element of it. I think the biggest thing that I take away that was an answer to me, because I asked him about kind of what he's learned from this past year and how it's affected how he sees the game and building a roster. And he went into, towards the end of it, how a strong bond is a common thread through a lot of the teams that he's had or seen that have been successful. And look, this is the thing that you have in Chris Henderson. He knows this league, every evolution of it. He played in it. He won trophies as a player. He has been a coach in it, short period of time as a coach, but he's been a sporting director and various roles in that side of things in two big clubs in Seattle and Miami. And he's had success, but he's never had a season like he just did. So I think that kind of season can reinforce some of the things you believe, but also maybe allow you to see some things that you might not have seen before.
Yeah, I think for me too, what stuck out to me is I leaned more heavily into talking more about the academy and the youth side, because that was a big focus, especially with, the area that we're in now is obviously part of this new extension of everything. And that came with a lot of the academy features, a new gym and everything in that regard. So I think one thing that stood out to him this season, one of the big positive points was the youth and seeing a lot of that growth from the youth. Luke Brennan's a big one. Jaden Hibbert's one that came from the twos coming up too, but still in that same role of young talent. Cooper Sanchez, Dominic Chonkwe. You also saw so many of those young players step up in those moments as well. And that also extends to the twos as well. You saw a lot of young academy players get the opportunity to show what they can do at a professional level. And that's something Chris Henderson took away from this season. The positive side of this season was seeing that youth come into play and seeing that youth continue to develop and make an impact. And something that, especially looking ahead to this new head coach, something I asked, how important is it for the new head coach to have the same ideas for you guys, especially in developing young talent and getting them more involved in the first team? And he said the same thing, it's a pathway, and we want to make sure that we're not blocking young players from that path, especially if they're ready, because, hey, if you're good enough, you're old enough. We saw that all the time this season. And I think that was a big takeaway for me, especially because of the impact and the emphasis on the academy and how the academy has grown and how much talent is in the academy. Because, guys, if you're not watching the academy streams, if you're not watching Atlanta United too, you're not listening to us. Guys, this is the future of Atlanta United right here with these young players. And that was a big emphasis today too, talking about that young talent as well.
You got to continue to bring them through. And also when they're ready to take spots on the roster, you've got to empower them to do that, because in a cap league like Major League Soccer, you have to have your homegrowns producing to some degree, because they save you money on the cap. And look, it is every dollar you want to maximize in how you get the most out of a team. And I really think there is a key element, if you do it right, where maybe they're not starting, maybe they are starting, depending in certain situations. There's always going to be some who come through and turn into superstars. We've seen it with Caleb Wiley. We saw it with George Bello. We've seen it before. But even if you think about the idea of let's go spend $500,000 on a fullback, a swing fullback who can play on the right or the left, or we have a homegrown who can do that and do a good job, you've saved that money that can go into another spot on the roster. And when you look at wanting to make this team better, you're going to need every dollar you can get. So I think some homegrowns will be important parts of this roster. Maybe not in the starting 11, but maybe in that 12 to 18 group. Definitely in the 18 to 30 group on the roster of providing competition, pushing guys, and getting some minutes where needed.
Yeah, Chris, I think one of the blurbs that made its way out of the media availability that this was one of the toughest seasons he's had in 3 decades in Major League Soccer. And to your point, guys, it has to do with the younger players. Chris was a part of that fabric in Seattle, where if you're young enough, you're good enough, you're going into the lineup. And we've seen it with Brian Schmetzer specifically and the successes that have been attached with Seattle.
Well, he was kind of before that, John. That's what's interesting about Chris's time in this league. And I think that's why it's so important that he's here. Because you go back to Seattle before, they weren't producing guys. And they did well, and they had good rosters, and they were always a strong scouting department, always picked up good players and got more out of them. But then when they started to produce the Obed Vargases and the Danny Leyvas and those kinds of guys that could play key minutes, it allows you to do even more. You know, when he went to Miami, academy was a big thing in Miami from day one because of just the talent pool that you have. And I remember talking to him when we were down there at the end of the season about Benjamin Kremoski and seeing what he could do and provide to that team. So I think that's one of those things that has evolved. And Chris has been part of that evolution of young players getting important minutes. And now it's more important than ever, I think, to maximize your roster, to have young players contributing.
Especially in MLS, I think. And I think you're seeing the growth of that. I think specifically this season. You look at a lot of the big teams that are in the playoffs now that are not in the playoffs as well. You look at LAFC and that starter as
Nathan
well.
Ordaz.
Nathan Ordaz. You also look at Alex Freeman for Orlando. A bright spot in that entire season as well. I mean, I even look at Quinn Sullivan. I think Quinn Sullivan as well is another big one too. Comes from Philadelphia, that big home ground, unfortunately got injured too. Yeah. And listen, we could talk about our issues with Philadelphia. I think Quinn Sullivan's a great player. I really do.
Brian Gutierrez for Chicago.
Brian Gutierrez. You have so much young talent, and that's why I think MLS, that's what stands out about it, because you are able to have these homegrown players come in and make impacts, whether it's off the bench, whether they are starting in those moments and earning those spots. But it's a big thing too to make sure you're not blocking that path for these homegrown players too. You're not blocking that path to allow them to make that jump, especially if they're ready.
That's the element that you have to take a look at, and we'll do a deep dive into it here soon. Chris talked about rough timelines. He didn't commit to any specifics of new coach in a week or 2 weeks. He didn't get into that because he said a half dozen interviews, and he talked about a whole lot of conversations. So they're still in the midst of the process. We only know the 2 names that have been talked about publicly, and that's just what's been reported in Tata Martino and Giovanni Savarese. I kind of went into the philosophy, the mechanics of that last night on Atlanta Soccer Tonight. Shameless plug. Go listen to it on Off the Woodwork. But the depth chart overall, I think when you start to talk about what Atlanta United's going to do with their roster for next season, you have to factor in not just who did well for the twos and who can contribute right now. Who are the young players who played this season and can contribute maybe more? You have to look a year down the road. You have to look sometimes 2 years down the road, because it will affect who you go out and sign. And I think if you're ignoring that, you're doing a disservice and you're misleading people. Because if you look at, and I'm trying to think of somebody right now that could be on that line. Let's say Ignacio Suarez Corey, who debuted with the twos this year, scored a goal, grew in the minutes that he got in the second half of the season. If you look at him and say, he's somebody that we could see contributing in the first team in 2 years, that's going to affect what kinds of players you go out and get in his position in front of him. You're probably not going to go get somebody who you expect to be here for 5 years.
Right.
You might go get somebody for 2 years. You know, you might go get somebody who's a little bit older who can be a mentor. You look at it differently. So to say the roster is 30 guys and this is what you have to do to fix it, you have to look at the second team. You have to look at the U18s. I think you have to look at the U16s and look at who could be coming through.
Because, I mean, that's why you saw the influx, too, of the signings with Jonathan Ransom as well as with with Donaldson too.
It affects what you're going to do at goalkeeper.
What you're going to do at goalkeeper, because that's also a conversation too, especially with Brad Guzan retiring as well. You're now looking at what's going to happen in the goalkeeper position.
You got three guys under contract, either second team, first team. You've got Hibbert, who's just over 20. You've got Ransom, who went to the U17 World Cup with Canada. And you've got Donaldson, who's a year younger than that.
And then you have to decide on an option for Josh Cohen, if I'm correct with the contracting.
Yeah, and again, like those three guys maybe makes Cohen more valuable in some ways because he is a little bit older. Maybe you're not looking at him as a long term, but maybe he's a number 2 for another year, so you can continue to develop. You have to look at building a roster in Major League Soccer in 2026, not just at 30 guys. You're 30 guys, you're a second team, you're a U18, you're a U16, and you have to plan accordingly. If you don't, you're going to have to then fix those mistakes down the road.
How much longer do we have you? Because I know that you guys have to do some content up there that's going to be on the network.
We'll do some content a little bit. We got time. You got time. We all got time.
Okay. A roster designation question. So right now, Atlanta United they're on the 3-and-3 model. It's 3 DPs, 3 U22s. One of those currently is listed as Edwin Mosqueda, who is out on loan.
Mm-hmm.
And there are two U22 slots that are open. When it comes to the homegrown players that are under contract, can they go into those U22s? Do you want to keep them as homegrowns? How does that work when it comes to filling those slots so you can best benefit those U22 availabilities, keep your homegrowns as a part of your 30, and blend all of that together?
Well, the way they hit the cap, it's almost always you don't want a guy on a first homegrown deal going into a U22 because they're going to take up a bigger cap slot than they would as a homegrown. It's where the U22 and homegrowns can intersect, I think, is when you're re-signing a player, because then you can re-sign somebody for a larger contract and have them hit the cap at a lower number because of the U22 designation. We talked about this in the past with Jay Fortune has possibly fallen into that. He didn't. I think Jaden Hibbert potentially could if you decide you want to sign him to a longer term deal because it is an option for him. I think you have 2 more options after this. But if you say, you know what, we want to lock him up in a different way and commit to him a little bit longer, we're going to sign him, but he's going to be a U22 designation. That's where I think you see that. I think the U22s are really important. And I think they're really interesting. And you look again at Chris Henderson's history, because I think you don't look necessarily at what Atlanta United's done since 2017 with how they've used roster spots. I think you have to look at what Chris has done and how he sees the game. He's used U22s to good effect. In Miami, he did. Can he do that here? And you look at the roster and what kinds of things you might need. If you decide you want another winger, that's a prime U22 kind of opportunity. If you decide you want a young forward who can push latte lot and be somebody that potentially develops and maybe is a guy on the way up, you could go U22 there. Fullback, maybe. It depends. Maybe that's a little bit harder one. And you start to, again, look at the academy. And I think you've got guys coming that you maybe don't want to go longer term, younger signing at fullback. I look at it as a wing or a 9 potentially, or if you want to do a longer deal with Jaden Hibbert, because look, here's the thing about Jaden is he's going to have possibilities in Europe, being a young goalkeeper with some minutes, being in demand by at least 2 national team programs, potentially being at the World Cup with one. He's going to be in demand, and to make him happy, you might need to look at a bigger deal. If you decide you want to go with that, you also got 2 young guys coming behind him. So that's all, that all goes into the equation. It's not easy decisions here and just, firing off hot takes and checking boxes.
Right now, options, Lucas through 27 option for 28, DCQ option 28 option for 29, Matt Edwards options for 26 and 27, Jay an option for 26, Ashton Gordon 27 and 28 through 26. Jaden right now, contract through this year, options for 26, 27, and 28.
Yeah.
Same for Will Riley. and Nick Sessick is a 25 with options for 26 and 27. So that's
Hibbert would be, if there's any of them that could potentially become a U22 with a bigger contract, Hibbert would be the one that would make sense if you decide to go that direction. But with 3 years of options, you don't have to. But if you want to pay him more, then your option is that might be a valuable way.
Maddie, anything else from the Chris Henderson media availability stick with you, whether it was discussing personnel matters, philosophy, anything else stick with you from the press conference this morning?
Yeah, I mean, I also asked too, as well, with, Ronnie Dyla being let go as well. There was the conversation of other members of the coaching staff as well. We did find out that Kenny Miller was let go as well. And a decision will need to be made as well about everybody else on staff when that new coach is hired as well, because it'll be a decision on if they want to keep some of those people involved as well, or if they want to bring an entire new coaching staff. That just depends on who the head coach is as well. That was the other thing. But no, I think it was also something like towards the end as well. Joe Fryhofer asked a really good question to Chris, especially, I think about his care for the team. And Chris Henderson is very involved, I think, in everything. You guys saw him probably a lot on the away trips, being involved in the locker room, being always there. And I think especially when we look ahead to 2026, Chris Henderson is going to be fully hands-on in trying to piece it to get everything together, making this really solid heading into 2026, especially looking at everything from bringing in a new head coach, bringing in new players, bringing in everything else to try to make 2026 a lot better. And I think I'm excited. It's going to be a crazy offseason. I think we're not going to get any sleep. We're going to need a lot of these.
Yeah,
we're not going to get any sleep.
I was going to ask what's in the styrofoam.
All right, ready? Brown sugar shaken espresso. I got a venti today because I needed it.
I got a smaller one. It's already gone. I missed the horchata shaken espresso, to be honest. That one I liked better, but this one's pretty good.
Okay.
The horchata one was better.
Yeah, as the two of you argue about that. We are wrapping up match day ones when it comes to MLS Cup playoffs. Last night we had our first loss of a home side, and it was NYCFC going on the road to the bank and taking care of Charlotte 1-0. And Dean Smith made a point after the match to pretty much kvetch about his team and also kvetch about the fact that he had to play in a midweek. So
it's MLS. You have to play in midweek games. It happens all the time.
The playoff schedule, look, there's a thing about the way we talk about soccer in this country where Dean Smith fits right in terms of complaining about everything, because we always complain. I mean, let's go back to before the Apple deal. We can't find the games where I need to go to this place and then this place and then this place. Then they're all in one place. Well, now I got to pay a subscription. Well, welcome to the world we're in. We want consistent start times. Okay, here's consistent start times. All the games are at the same time.
Then I can't watch all the games I want to watch.
Let's stop doing this. The playoffs, everybody talking, the games are at the same time. I want to watch them all. Okay, we're going to have some on Mondays and Tuesdays. From what we had heard before, the Monday and Tuesday games have done well for the league. 6:45 start time, I might push a little bit against that. I don't know why that was the best way to go, but you have a home playoff game. Your team won, how many games in a row did they win? 9?
Yeah.
Kind of second half of the season. They have had the best year they've ever had. To not have more people in the building is a shame. And that needs to be discussed on the Charlotte side internally as to how that happened, in my opinion. But the complaining afterwards, I'm sorry, you had 30,000 plus. The fans or the empty seats or whatever had nothing to do with getting beat. It didn't.
NYC had that game in full control the minute kickoff happened.
Yeah, they were the better team.
You had opportunities to try to equalize and try to find something, and you couldn't find something. That because there was only 30,000 people in the stadium.
I love that we're only 30,000.
Only 30,000.
Only 30. And I'm like the fact that that's the complaint too, and not the fact that, hey, our team did not perform well. The fact that that's the conversation. Now you got to go to a place where you're on the road now, and now you have to win that game against NYC at NYC. You put yourself in that position. And a lot of people say you don't have Pepe Beal, you don't have You don't have Zaha, but
Well,
I mean,
Zaha did that to himself.
Yeah.
BL,
yeah,
huge
BL
loss.
Yeah, that's a huge loss because I think he was arguably one of their best players. I think
I think
he's a
he
very
made
good
that
player.
team
Yes.
really go. I think he elevated
Yeah,
them.
and
But to me, they're
Yeah.
not one of the top teams in the East. I think Miami is the team to beat.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do it on the road when you get to the later rounds, but when you get to this stage for me, and I've had this conversation about looking ahead to the World Cup next summer, and this is kind of a similar situation when you're getting into knockouts and playoffs. You have to have somebody who can go win the game for you. You have to have people you can trust. You have to have game breakers. Miami's obviously got that in spades. They have the best one. LAFC's got that. I think that's your final. LAFC Miami.
Yep.
I said it from the beginning of the postseason. Cincinnati, I think, has that in Evander. I think he can be that guy.
For sure. Hey, listen, I'm gonna say something, and I think dark horse, Chicago. I don't know.
No.
I feel it. I feel something. I don't know.
They
Dark
got to
horse.
win 2 games now. I don't see it.
Maddie's,
I think they've had a
Maddie's
really
feeling
good
her
season.
case of the Zinkernaggles. I think that's what she's.
Well, he's hurt. He hurt himself in warmups. So, that's the problem. And that's why I don't think they go.
I don't know.
You can't lose your best player and advance in that way. I just don't see it. I don't think Philly was convincing.
No.
I think Cincinnati and Philly and Miami, I like Miami the most out of that. I do. Out west, I think Vancouver is going to push LAFC all the way. I think Minnesota is going to be a pain to deal with.
Yeah.
But LAFC, and we'll see tonight when they host Austin, to me,
I agree.
they are the most explosive team in the league.
I agree.
They have been the best since Sonny showed up. If you get an LAFC Miami final,
Ooh.
yeah, that exactly.
Ooh.
And I think that's where I would be looking at my juice boxes is LAFC and Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Miami, I do think can go on the road in an Eastern Conference final and win. I don't think they're going to keep anybody, scoreless. I think they're going to have to outscore them. It's going to be like a 3-1, a 2-1, a 4-2. It's going to be kind of wild like that because defensively they have an issue, but they've got the ultimate guy in Messi, and he's got a lot of support now. So I think it's Miami and LAFC. I think LAFC is the favorite to win it all, and it's been a good postseason so far.
Been pretty fun.
You've had drama, you've had some chaos. Now we get into game 2s where I think all that ramps up because you get desperation into the mix.
Because I'm curious, especially the Philly and Chicago one really does stand out to me because of what happened in that first game.
I think it'll be a great second game.
Because Philly had the 2-0 lead. Chicago was able to come back immediately, and you lost all control. You lost everything. You were so flustered. And that, to me, shows, especially when that happens for Philly and any other match going forward, especially if they face a Miami, they're going to get scored on. And if that's the response after you get scored on like that, that's not good.
Can somebody get me the gif of Kai Wagner on the ground holding his neck like he got hit in the neck? It looked almost like the meme of the guy in the casket in the back of the flatbed truck. And then he sits up and starts, getting up and wanting to talk about it. Like he's literally laying there holding his neck like somebody jabbed him with a pencil. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's one thing too with that whole situation as well. It happens. I think Gutierrez handled it perfectly. He handled it great.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the red card, there was no need for you to come in. There was no need for you to come in and start that. That I think
red card felt quick for me. But
I agree. I don't think you should have come in the way you did because you weren't involved in that regard.
Sure.
I do think the red card is a bit much because for me, looking at it, unless you were looking at extreme hands to the face, I didn't see it.
No,
and that's
I think Wagner's reaction got the red.
I think so too, but I don't know. That match is really intriguing, especially going to Chicago.
I think
That'll be interesting.
I think Chicago wins the second game. I think it goes.
I think
to
so
3.
too. I think they do, and then it will go back to Philly, and
Philly
that will
wins
be
the
an
third.
absolute chaos.
Philly wins the third. I think Cincinnati gets through in 2. I think NYC gets through in 2. I think Miami gets through in 2. I think actually that's a lot of road teams winning in the second leg. No, I don't trust Charlotte. Maybe Columbus. They would be the one that I would probably look at the most.
I could maybe on the maybe 5%. I could see Nashville possibly.
I don't see it,
but I don't know if that. I'm leaning more towards Miami.
I don't see it. Out west, I think Seattle will win game 2. I think LA will win in 2. I think they'll win 2 games.
Yeah.
Vancouver, I think will win in 2. San Diego, I think they will win into, especially if they get Chucky Lozano back, and that's kind of a boost to them, almost an internal like boost. You self-created it because Chucky lost his head about being substituted.
Yes.
But you get him back, and it's a boost to the team. So I think second legs will be fun. There'll be a couple road teams that win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a good playoff so far. There's that. There's the managerial carousel. There's so much going on right now just in MLS and in this country. It's going to be a very busy next few weeks.
Yes, as it always is. Guys, I know you got stuff to do, and thanks for dropping by, especially after the Chris Henderson media veil. Glad that you were able to go into a hermetically sealed booth and catch up with us from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. Obviously, we'll keep an eye out for everything, set our notifications for what you guys have to say and your takeaways that are here and there in Marietta. As always, guys, don't be strangers. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for dropping by after live events and things.
Adios.
All right. There goes Maddie and Jason. And they get to, like I said, set your notifications. They're going to be discussing stuff from their takeaways involving the media availability this morning. And one of the early points that they made about Chris Henderson, just keep it in mind. You've made your way through round 2 of interviews. And I think the number that was mentioned was 6. And yes, we have 2 of them that have been posted in the ether as interested. Giovanni Savarese and Tata Martino. Jason has that list of 11 that he has posted, and obviously those 2 are on it. Apparently we're down to 6. You're not going to mention any names. You're not going to say, externally that, yes, we talked to so-and-so and so-and-so. It will be agents and representatives of those folks that have passed inspection and have made it into and past the velvet rope to get into the corner booth to talk to Chris and Skate and Demetrius and Javi and Rich and Josh and anybody else in that room. So you won't know necessarily from the inside out who is there. It'll come from the outside to the rest of us. And you're also not going to be discussing anything involving player acquisitions or ins and outs and things like that. You don't want to play your hand. You don't want to play your hand in public opinion because you don't want to sit there and say, well, yeah, we offered this to so-and-so, because then what you've done is you've shown your hand publicly and you put yourself at a negotiating deficit when it comes to controlling information and talking the topics that you want to talk about with those folks behind closed doors. So do not anticipate a whole lot of internal team information coming out. You'll probably hear it from sources say this, and this. So keep an eye out for that. And obviously, since we are now in the round 2 of getting past the velvet rope, obviously, we'll keep an eye on all of that stuff as we go. Remember, Ronnie Dyla was named after MLS Cup last year, just as a marker. So we'll see what happens with the new head coach coming in here this year, getting ready for the 26th season. And we will obviously keep an eye on stuff as we go. The one thing that I didn't get to talk to them about that we'll save was the messy comments that we addressed yesterday with his interview with Tom Yamas from NBC Nightly News about basically releasing the hounds and spending what you want to spend and all that kind of stuff. I didn't get their comments on that. We'll save that one for later. Okay. Couple of other things. Well, and Dr. D, to your point, when it comes to Curtin, when it comes to someone like Jim Curtin, you have to look at the idea of philosophy. And Jim Curtin would fit more with a Red Bulls tactic, framework, mindset than any place else. And then obviously, even if it was past empty nester and there was an interest and he made it past the velvet rope and got past the bouncer with the clipboard for anything that was not where he is philosophically, I'm sure that there are very few places where the fans would sit there and go, I don't like that guy. Why are you interviewing that guy? And so that might come into it as well. And it's just on-field philosophy, really, if even if even someone like Jim Curtin would be, a thought in Atlanta. Philosophy and personnel would have to be blown up, and you'd have to starting over. So that's why Red Bulls make an interesting play. But yes, the turning around and heading back into the same subdivision, you in a new house with a new car, and living in a different place, and you sit there and you drive past your old house with all the old equipment and everything, and you're sitting there going, yeah, well, I got all this new stuff, but I miss my old mower. You got to keep an eye on that. A couple of other things before we go. Alex went to preschool with Tom Yamas, and his father was Alex's dentist and school friend of my parents. That is crazy. That is like 9th degrees of separation. That's like way the heck out there. Okay. Ricky mentioned African qualifiers. FIFA World Cup 26 Intercontinental Playoff, venues, dates, and kickoff times. And this comes from CAF themselves. It is the mini tournament in Morocco, confirming the match venues. Staged between the 13th and the 16th of November in Rabat. It will feature Cameroon, DRC, Gabon, and Nigeria. Semifinals on the 13th at Al Barid and Prince Moulay El Hassan Sports Complex. Draw held on Thursday, October 25 to determine the venue for each match. Nigeria and Gabon. And then the second semifinal, Cameroon and DRC. Final played on Sunday, the 16th at Prince Héritier Moulay El Hassan at 8 o'clock local time. So Nigeria, Gabon, Cameroon, DRC. Winner advances to the FIFA Playoff Intercontinental Tournament in March to secure Africa's 10th and final spot at the FIFA World Cup in 2026. So Gabon might be needing Denis Bouanga during the playoffs here in Major League Soccer because of the Intercontinental Playoff. Keep that in mind going forward. Definitely Palace intrigue where that is concerned as well. That was random involving Tom Yamas. Yeah, you know me and random. Yeah, Ricky, I'd be very happy to not have an LAFC Messi and Friends final. Yeah, I think that's where, unless it's Vancouver, I think it's Messi and Friends out of the East, and I think that it's LAFC is where I am. But to conventional wisdom, I do think that Vancouver could put with having home field. They to me would have the banana in the tailpipe. That would be how that would be for me. So, all right, let's take a peek at what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and we'll get you out of here. Once again, remember tomorrow, it is Max Anderson, play-by-play voice of the Chicago Fire, joining us off the top at 9:05. Power Hour, Nino and Nico, 10 and 10:30. Obviously, we're chasing after other folks as well. We are chasing Lucas Panzica to get the thoughts of Nashville. He has to fill in the morning, so his normal 9:05 slot is available for him, but he'll be working. So we got to figure out what to do with Lucas, and we'll try and catch up with Willie P. and some other folks as well. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And remember, you've got your college activity that is wrapping up as well. Today, Ligue 1 doubleheader on BN and BN en Espanol. You can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can get all the BNs, Nuestro Telesitio for the fans, TIC, Gold TV with our buddy Nino Torres. You can get Tigo Sports, Canal 4, CA Sports, and you can watch pretty much anything and everything that is out there these days. fntz.co/soccer down here helps them out, helps us out, helps you out with continuing to add leagues that you might not have known you could watch. Copa Libertadores tonight, Racing Club and Flamengo is at 8:30. Racing Club and Flamengo, and the juice boxes there for the second leg. Remember, no Santi Sosa for Racing in this one because of the collision that he had in the match, and he's in concussion protocol, and he's probably got a nice shiner that it was a nasty concussion. Do not, if you are squeamish in the least, do not go and find the photos of Santi Sosa. They are an underdog tonight at home in the second leg. Flamengo is in the second leg. Flamengo is a plus 137. Your draw, 90-minute draw is a plus 218. And Racing Club is a plus 197. Palmeiras is a big favorite tomorrow at home against Liga de Quito, and they are a minus 526. Liga de Quito to win is a plus 1200. They really don't need to win Liga de Quito. considering the result in the first leg was 3-0 to them. They just have to hang on. Flamengo won in the first leg at home 1-0. So we'll see what happens with Flamengo as a favorite in that one in the Copa Libertadores. And that is tonight, second leg. ESPN Deportes, German Cup, Köln and Bayern Munich at 3:45. 10:42 is the listed start time for LAFC in Austin tonight on Season Pass. German Cup is 2 at 1 o'clock, 2 at 3:30 on the Plus. Copa del Rey, 2 at 2, 1 at 3, 2 at 4. Paramount Plus Serie A, 3 at 1:30, 3 at 3:45. English Cup continues today. It is 4 at 3:45, 1 at 4 o'clock. Arsenal, Brighton, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Swansea, Manchester City, Wolves and Chelsea, Newcastle and Spurs is your 4 o'clock. Hibs and Rangers is at 3:45. Women, the U17 World Cup, bottom of the hour, Spain and France. And Canada and Zambia is at 3 o'clock. The U.S. knocked out yesterday in penalties. And so their run ends in the tournament, losing to the Dutch in PKs. TNT has the USA-New Zealand friendly at 8 o'clock tonight. Universo has it, HBO Max has it, and Peacock has it. And so that is what you can watch across the board today. Let me check and see if there's any news that I might have missed coming across the wires while we were busy and talking about stuff. And there was a lot of stuff to talk about. All right, so the injury to Ajimang, and Serena Wiegmann said the injury does not look good as you're getting ready for the World Cup. Yesterday, Michelle Ajimang went down with a knee injury, 10 minutes left in a matchup against Australia in Derby. Serena Wiegmann says it doesn't look good. Don't know yet. I'm not very positive about what I've seen. Injury woes are mounting. Leah Williamson yet to return. Lauren Hemp, Lauren James still out. Grace Clinton missing with a knock. Jess Park out with a concussion. Lottie Wilben-Moy had to leave camp through illness. But now the focus is on Ajimang, who has been a lights-out performer. And you have to keep an eye on that for the Lionesses going forward in their activity. Real Madrid plan to claim substantial damages from UEFA over the Super League. From Reuters, they're seeking compensation from UEFA after the club said on Wednesday that the Regional Court of Madrid had dismissed appeals filed by UEFA, the RFEF, and La Liga in relation to the Super League. Madrid were one of 12 clubs backed away from the competition in 2021. UEFA had also stopped the formation of the Super League, but in December 23, European Court of Justice said UEFA and FIFA had contravened EU law by doing so. And so last year, a Spanish judge ordered FIFA and UEFA to halt their opposition to a parallel European competition, ruling they were practicing anti-competitive behavior and abusing their dominant position. UEFA has yet to comment. And so Real Madrid is apparently going to sue UEFA for damages over the whole Super League thing. I don't quite see that coming to much of anything. But, you know, hey, one folk is going to get paid, and that's the lawyers. Lawyers are always going to get paid in a situation like this. All right, so that was with that paper. We'll see. Let's see. There's the Ajimang injury, and let's see. We mentioned yesterday about Cardiff's win over Wrexham. Brentford knocked out Grimsby, and let's see. Bukayo Saka believes England and Arsenal double is possible in 2026. That would be intriguing if that was to happen, and I know that some folks would be pleased about that. I think that is pretty much it for all the news. There was one other thing in the Athletic that I did want to mention, and it has to do with qualifying in the Middle East and North Africa. And it had to do with there it is. It had to do with how the home matches were set up in the Middle East and North Africa. It has to do with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Jacob Whitehead. And you have Iraq reaching the FIFA World Cup just once, 1986. Missed out on qualification and playoffs, 2 points and suspensions. The 0-0 draw in Jeddah sent Saudi Arabia through to the finals next June and July, qualifying on goals scored. Iraq would have to play a two-legged AFC playoff next month for the right to advance. to the Global Six Nation tournament in March. And then their opponents in the playoff were discovered on the same day in Doha, Qatar. In both games, the team that qualified had home advantage in a round that, according to the original structure, should have been played at neutral venues throughout. On top of that, both home sides had profited from an extra 3-day rest period over their opponents. With Qatar and Saudi Arabia also having winning bids to host World Cups, Iraqi and Emirati fans cried foul, feeling the qualification process has been skewed against them. Oman coach Carlos Queiroz: I've worked for 40 years in football, and this is not fair play. As a coach, I'll have to accept that, and my players have to accept that too. So here's what happened. The Asian Football Confederation qualifying entered by 46 teams, varying abilities. Round 1, 20 nations with the lowest FIFA World Rankings played each other, two-legged eliminators, knocking out 10. 10 winners joined the remaining 26 in round 2, 9 groups of 4. Top 2 sides, each group progressed, bottom 2 are out. Round 3 was the first time you could secure qualification. 18 sides, divided 3 groups of 6. Again, playing matches home and away, 2 top sides in each section after 10 games gaining automatic spots. Iran, Uzbekistan, South Korea, Jordan, Australia, Japan. So that left 2 spots available. 5th and 6th place teams from the round 3 groups eliminated. But the 3rd and 4th place finishers in 3 groups, 6 sides total, move on to round 4. 2 groups of 3, round-robin mini tournament. Sides who come in first get their tickets to the cup that the world is chasing in 2026. 2 second-place sides from round 4 then meet in a 2-leg playoff. There'll be a test on this later. Winners going into one of 2 interconfederation 3-team single-leg playoff brackets in March. Africa, Oceania, South America, 2 from North and Central America, and the Caribbean. The last 2 slots get decided in the 48-team field. What do other teams think is unfair? Pretty much everything about round 4. Saudi Arabia and Qatar given hosting rights for all 3 matches in their respective groups, despite teams having been told earlier in the qualifying process this round would take place at neutral venue. According to FIFA handbook regulations, accepted format was single round-robin format. Each team in a group plays all other teams in their group once, with the venues either drawn at random or assigned by the Confederation with the agreement of the playing association. Venues were not drawn at random or seemingly assigned by agreement, given the public complaints from the FAs involved. Those sides in the region accepted that Saudi Arabia and Qatar had the best facilities by a distance. The coaches of their opponents questioned why both countries were allowed to play their 4th-round matches at home. Quote from Kosmin Al-Royu, who lost to Qatar in Doha. Venues in Saudi Arabia and Qatar received favorable match timings. Then they were the top seeds. Before the draw took place, top seeds would play their 2 matches on the 8th and the 14th, remaining 2 sides in the group playing each other on the 11th. In practice, it meant Saudi Arabia and Qatar had 6 days rest, but Oman, UAE, Indonesia, and Iraq played with a 3-day break. This is required reading for the day, so it's from The Athletic. But basically, shenanigans ahoy when it came to qualifying from what's going on in the Middle East. And there you go. So there's your required reading. It's a decent read, but the biggest thing is trying to figure out, okay, what in the wide world of sports happened here? And gee, what happened? Well, you know, they're kind of like leaning into hosting a World Cup and stuff. So you're trying to get those teams in. I mean, really, honestly, truthfully, sure. So it was I know everybody's sitting there going, hey, we're shocked. Absolutely shocked. Apparently, Hamas is set to become a free agent. He is no longer a part of the plans in Leon because his contract expires at the end of the calendar year, and they're not planning to renew. Has not ruled out staying in Liga MX next year. Several Mexican clubs have expressed an interest in his services. However, Major League Soccer and Hamas, keep an eye on that. Pedri is out until after the November international break. Obviously, Wrexham is disappointed after what happened yesterday, as are Abby and I, considering we had them in picks of the week. And we discussed the NYC win over Charlotte FC. And so I don't know if you saw the visuals about 2034, And according to Chris Wright at the 4-letter, his headline, "No, Saudi Arabia is not building a World Cup stadium on top of a skyscraper." It's really cool. Unofficial clip, 46,000 seats in the new city of Neom atop a purpose-built skyscraper 1,150 feet above the ground. Remains unclear who created and initially shared the clip, but everybody was wondering about, is this for real? Reality still something. Actual stadium proposed has been officially listed as one of the 15 host stadia, being either renovated or built from scratch from the 34 World Cup for almost a year. Saudis do plan for it to be 350 meters above the ground. They plan for it to form part of The Line, a smart green city in Neom, eventually extended in a linear fashion for over 100 miles in a Saudi province by 2045, powered by renewable energy. So what you saw was something that's not going to happen. You're not going to have a stadium in the 2034 World Cup that's going to be 1,150 feet off the ground. So whoever floated it, you floated it, and everybody kind of bid on it, but no, that's not going to happen. All right. Once again, remember tomorrow, it is Max Anderson from Chicago Fire, Nino and Nico dropping by, and we're going to have the Power Hour and talk about all kinds of things, Sudamericana, Libertadores, Portugal, South America, Europe, all the things, and we'll get into the playoffs and get ready for the big weekend with Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart. We'll get into that at 10:30 tomorrow, and we will break it all down. Once again, on Friday morning, chasing after our friends from Major League Soccer, find out who gets to come and visit. They might be patrolling the sidelines. So we might be finding out who our new guest is going to be on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Try and catch up with our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring, get you squared away for the weekend, all the things. So it's going to be a busy time. I know you're all shocked. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Maddie and Jason for joining us from the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground after the Chris Henderson media availability this morning. Thanks to Tyler. Thanks to Dylan. Thanks to all of you guys for coming by as you always do. We'll break it all down again tomorrow and find out what's going on here because there is no off season for soccer. It's another go round of SDH AM here on the network back in a little less than 22 hours. And since it is the end of the show, it means we get to do this. Take it easy, mucho platio. Catch up with you soon.